Hello, everyone. Hope the reading's going well. I'm recording this on Thursday, and currently I'm here at the school, and there is a box of copies of the play to the left of the front entrance. I don't know if anyone's going to come get them since I was kind of vague about if that was going to happen or not, but they're there. They're going to be there till 1, and maybe we could do it one more time next week in case there's some latecomers. Go ahead and watch this, and then you'll take a 5-question quiz on all of Act 1 and the very beginning of Act 2, just the first scene. But I'll go over those now, so you should just listen to this and make sure you're actually keeping up with the plot, since you might be adjusting to the Shakespearean dialect. Yeah, and then at the end of the video, I'll discuss our plans for next week. I think we're gonna, instead of trying to Zoom on Wednesday, we'll try to Zoom on Friday, but I'll get to that. So remember where we left off. They were hearing about how Julius Caesar had a crown offered to him by Mark Antony. Casca tells Brutus and Cassius about this. All three of them are Roman senators, some of which may or may not be partaking in this plan to, take care of Julius Caesar. It's important that Julius Caesar turns down this crown because it's important to JC himself that he is not seen as a sole ruler of Rome, even though he essentially is. It's important that he still presents as though the Roman Republic is still democratic in nature, even though that has basically kind of vanished into thin air. We still have senators, and there's still a kind of presentation of the older democratic ways, but at this point, JC is basically running the show. So he's sure to turn down the crown multiple times. But then he has some kind of episode, and you might not have caught this. It's worded weirdly. So Casca says, like right after he turns it down for a third time, he fell down in the marketplace and foamed at the mouth and was speechless. Brutus says, "'Tis very like he hath the falling sickness." So for Shakespearean era England, falling sickness was a term used for what we would probably nowadays call epilepsy. And there is some theorizing on this. It seems like Julius Caesar had something, whether it was epilepsy or hypoglycemia, something that would cause seizures from time to time. He may have had malaria when he was a child, and it left him with this condition throughout his life. But obviously, it's hard to apply a modern medical diagnosis to someone who died 2,000 years ago. So we're kind of unsure. But this may or may not have happened at Lupercalia, that he had a episode. And then let's see. The only important thing that we get from this, other than some historical accuracy maybe, is that whatever happened to JC in this moment, it didn't seem to affect the crowd's adoration of him. They were still, they're like, oh, like, they either like didn't notice because they were so caught up, or if they did notice, they like didn't care, and maybe they already knew that Caesar maybe had some kind of quote unquote falling sickness. But it didn't stop him from genociding all of France for a decade. So it obviously wasn't a debilitating medical issue. Cassius and Casca continued to talk for a little while. My note here says Casca's one of the many senators that you should be keeping an eye on. We don't know which ones are going to partake in this conspiracy. Hopefully, everybody is like aware that the Ides of March assassination is carried out by senators, and we're meeting a lot of senators. But we don't know which ones are actually going to take part. And try to actually differentiate Cassius and people like Casca in your mind, even though those are both Roman sounding names that start with a C. These are different characters, and so try to keep track of like your kind of feeling about each character. I like this kind of weird send off. Casca's about to leave, and Cash is like, "Oh, will you dine with me tomorrow?" Casca says, "Aye, if I be alive and your mind hold and your dinner worth the eating." Cassius says, "Good, I'll expect you to do so. Farewell, both." And Brutus, after Casca walks away, says, "What a blunt fellow is this grown to be. He was quick metal when he went to school." Cassius says, "So is he now in execution, or any bold or noble enterprise. However, he puts on this tardy form. This rudeness is a sauce to his good wit, which gives men stomach to digest his words with better appetite." So Brutus is kind of like, I don't know about that guy. And Cassius is like, yeah, that's just how he is. It's part of his whole package that he is a little kind of like almost rude. Okay, and then so Casca. Okay. We kind of go back and forth here with who's actually having a discussion at the end of Act 1. Cassius mentions this thing before Brutus leaves, or like right when Brutus leaves. Brutus walks away, and Cassius kind of talks to himself, and this is called a soliloquy. So if you don't know what a soliloquy is, that's when a single character speaks their thoughts aloud on stage. This is super common in Shakespeare plays. Nowadays, in things that are not theater, we would think of this as a contrivance. And by contrivance, I mean like a narrative contrivance, which is just like a kind of easy way of getting, like expressing something that is not diegetic. I'm sorry, I'm using too much jargon, but diegetic would mean like we would hear this thought from him without it being in this artificial way. Because obviously, people don't usually quite do soliloquies in real life. You might like leave a voice memo to yourself or something, but that would probably be the extent of it. Uh, but anyway, it's like, in a modern Hollywood movie, you couldn't really have this. Now we do get away with this sometimes with overdub narration, which some people are like, "Oh, that's lazy story writing," when you just have a character speaking their thoughts over whatever. Like, there's like scenes of the character going about their life, and they're like, "I woke up today and did this." Anyway, this is a soliloquy. That's going to be a question on the final, almost certainly. So you should know that. But he soliloquizes here, kind of forebodingly, that he's going to throw messages in Brutus's window at night, as though they're coming from different people, and they're just going to be kind of like hyping up Brutus. So it's very clear at this point already in Act One that Cassius has like a project, that he is aware that he needs to sway Brutus. That Brutus is this guy that he thinks is malleable, that can be swayed to his cause, but is not yet swayed. Brutus still has some rapport with Julius Caesar that it seems like Cassius doesn't have, or is beyond having at this point. And so Cassius has to like do things to urge Brutus to his side. The dark side, the light side, it's unclear. We don't really know. Let's see. Yep, I mean, I could go through that and read that, but he's just saying like Brutus just needs to hear how esteemed his name is throughout Rome, which is true. Brutus, it seems like he had a good reputation. The conspirator, or at least Cassius here, seems to think that Brutus is instrumental to pulling this off, and that'll come up again later. Casca already left these two and is walking through the streets, and he meets up with Cicero, and he's just on some kind of weird tangent here. This is Casca talking. He immediately like launches in talking to Cicero, saying, "Why all these fires? Why all these gliding ghosts? Why birds and beasts from quality and kind? Why old men fool and children calculate? All these weird things happening. Their nature and performant faculties to monstrous quality. Why? You shall find that heaven hath infused them with these spirits to make them instruments of fear and warning unto some monstrous state. Now could I, Casca, name to thee a man most like this dreadful night that thunders, lightens, opens graves, and roars, as doth the lion in the Capitol?" So he's saying that he's seen all kind of weird stuff, like literally, like this isn't even figurative language. He's saying he actually saw a lion in the Forum walking around, and it passed him by like it wasn't even a big deal. And he's like, I wonder why this would be happening. Could it be because of this monstrous political figure who's, stomping around like some colossus? He's talking about JC, right? But he's being a little, he's not being totally forthright, but he's kind of hinting at it. And Cicero's like, "Hey man, like I don't know, like maybe that's why that's happening, but you should probably get some rest." And they kind of just part ways. But it's an interesting little exchange. Like literally Cicero just kind of brushes it off. He's like, "Oh yeah, maybe there are some strange things happening, but men seem to misconstrue the cause of strange things when they see them. They don't necessarily know the cause, and so they get like carried away." And then he's like, "Oh, is Cicero going to go? I mean, is Julius Caesar going to go to the Forum tomorrow?" And Casca's like, "I don't know." And then they're like, "Good night, bye," and they leave. So what can we glean from this beyond just the fact that Casca is getting a little verbose about what he perceives to be going on in Rome? It seems like Cicero and Casca are not on the same page, right? They didn't have any weird exchange that seemed like coded. It wasn't like, "Hey, Cicero, you're going to come to like some secret meeting later." So maybe Cicero is not in the same loop as Casca here. It seems like Casca is in the same loop as Cassius. Okay, and that kind of ties into my next question. It's kind of weird. I'm a little like Casca ends up talking to Cassius again, even though he like left Brutus and Cassius a second ago. They somehow meet back up. But yeah, this is getting what I was talking about. Like, let's try to think of these guys as being different. Cassius has already voiced some things that Brutus himself was kind of echoing about how Julius Caesar is maybe getting a little carried away. We still don't know a ton about Casca. Okay, let's see. So Casca says, "Indeed, they say the senators tomorrow mean to establish Caesar as a king, and he shall wear his crown by sea and land in every place save here in Italy." Cassius says, "I know where I will wear this dagger then." So that really riles up Cassius to hear that. He's immediately talking about a dagger. And then there's some thunder. And let's see. The bottom part of what Cassius says: if I know this, know all the world beside that part of tyranny, and I do bear, I can shake off at pleasure. He's saying, like, I know tyranny is something that I can shake off if I need to. Cassius says, so can I. So every bondman in his own hand bears the power to cancel his captivity. That sounds kind of epic. I really like that. I mean, I feel like we could apply that thought to all sorts of things outside of this play. Say what you will about Julius Caesar deserving what he gets or not, but I like this that Casca is saying every bondman in his own hand bears the power to cancel captivity. This is the reason why we like Shakespeare. Cancel his captivity. There's just something about you don't just like that doesn't just roll off the tongue. But then when you hear it, I don't know. It just sounds kind of epic to me. I like it. They go on. They keep talking, and we're starting to really starting to get into the conspiracy that is brewing up here. Cassius has his point where he says Caesar's only a wolf because Rome is a sheep. He was like, Caesar wouldn't even be this domineering figure if Rome wasn't so submissive right now. And so it kind of makes you think, like, okay, what does Cassius think needs to be done so that Rome is not a sheep? And we kind of like already know the answer to that. They're alluding to their plan at this point, but it's still like in pretty coded language. They're not coming outright and saying everything that they are thinking. This middle part, what Cassius is saying, the second thing he's saying to the right, there's a bargain made. Now know you, Casca. I have moved already some certain of the noblest minded Romans. He's saying, I've got some good people in on the loop right now to undergo with me an enterprise of honorable, dangerous consequence. And I do know by this they stay for me in Pompey's porch. Meaning, so this is important too. Remember, Pompey was the one guy who was kind of like standing between Rome and Julius Caesar. So he's saying there's still people on Pompey's porch. Even though Pompey's long gone, been dead for years, I still know that there are people who are kind of like remain on his side and that they are against Julius Caesar. And then Casca says, that's to the left here, you speak to Casca, and to such a man that is no fleering telltale. Hold my hand, be factious for redress of all these griefs, and I will set this foot of mine as far as who goes farthest. He's saying, like, hey, I'll go as far as you go. If you're really ride or die about doing this, then so am I. Like, I'll do this too. Yeah, good. Okay. There's like one more really epic Casca line. Casca actually has a lot of epic lines. I'm trying to see if I left one out. One second. Okay, I found the line that I was picturing. It probably was always there for you guys, but I just added it. This is actually from Cassius. I know where I will wear this dagger, so it was right after when he said that. Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius. Okay, that's probably even cooler than every man has the power to cancel his captivity. It's always cool to refer to yourself in third person. And then again, they're both expressing this idea of agency. That's the fancy like literary term we would apply to this. That they have agency. That they can be the agents of enacting what they think is justice for them. Right? They seem very focused on like doing this for them. Like, is this for Rome? Is it for them personally? Like what is the idea behind this? I try to see what the senators seem to claim is the real root of this. Do they just like does Julius Caesar just annoy them? Like what is there virtue behind this? I think we'll get some of those answers in Act 2. But let's see. So Cassius and Casca are talking about the plan they have to leave a bunch of notes in Brutus's house, and we get some more names. There's Decius Brutus as well, who again is different than Brutus. There's this guy Trebonius, sounds like trombone, and there's Cinna as well. So these probably are names of either co-conspirators or people they want to conspire with. All right, let's talk about just the very beginning of Act 2, and then we will be done for the day. It opens up, and Brutus is just hanging out in his house. We'll learn later that he did not sleep well this night, and the conspirators visit him very quickly just after he gets the chance to look at all the letters. So he opens some letters and reads in the upper right, Brutus, thou sleepest, awake, and see thyself. Shall Rome and... what is that? Speak, strike, redress. Oh, these are like different letters. Brutus, thou sleepest. And I guess these are like anonymous. Such instigations have been dropped where I have took them up. Shall Rome and stand under one man's awe. What Rome my ancestors did from the streets of Rome, the Tarquin drive was when he was called a king. Speak, strike, redress. So they're trying to rile him up, explicitly calling to mind the fact that Brutus's great 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 grandfather was the one to banish the last king of Rome, Tarquin Superbus, which means Tarquinius the haughty or the arrogant. Now, it may or may not be important to know that Tarquin was expelled for an act of indecency against a woman of royal background. Uh, and so it was very specific. It wasn't so much like, I mean, kings were normal at that point. They had 7 kings apparently, and there wasn't this idea that kings were bad until they had a really bad one. So again, it's like, how do we compare Julius Caesar to someone like Tarquin Superbus, who was thrown out for this act of violence against a person in the kind of inner circle of Roman royalty, versus Julius Caesar, who's like, killed Romans, stuff like that. He definitely has blood on his hands, but like, what is the nature of that guilt, and how are the conspirators perceiving it? So yeah, and then everybody just comes on in. So we have Casca, Decius Brutus, Cinna, Metellus Kimber, and Trebonius. They're all coming in, and they kind of get right down to business. We'll talk more about this on Wednesday when we kind of like recap the rest of Act 2. But the kind of thing of note is that they decide to leave out Cicero. So up at the top, Cassius says, "What of Cicero? Shall we sound him? I think he will stand very strong with us." Cassius says, "Let us not leave him out." So they're both like, "Yeah, we got to get Cicero." Casca just encountered him the night before, and Cicero was none the wiser as to what was going on. Cinna says, "No, by no means." And Metellus says, "Oh, let us have him. For his silver hairs, he's old. The fact that he's so old will purchase us a good opinion and buy other men to come in with us." And Brutus says, "Oh, name him not. Let us not break with him, for he will never follow anything that other men begin." And then Cassius and Casca are like, "All right, cool." So the way Cassius and Casca they're immediately like, "Yep, okay, what he said," means that they really do, like, Brutus is the key here. Like, Brutus is very important to what is unfolding here. That if Brutus says no to Cicero, then no to Cicero, and we're not going to do Cicero. So poor Cicero looks like he's going to get left out. And then they talk about if they should kill Mark Antony or not, and they decide that they should not kill Mark Antony. That it'll be fine to let him be, which is kind of an interesting. We don't know that the conspirators were planning any additional assassinations, but Mark Antony would have been the guy to take care of probably as well. All right, on Wednesday we will do the rest of Act 2 and talk about the way that Cassius is kind of seeing Brutus as being instrumental to this plan and its unfolding and success. I want you to read Act 2 by Wednesday over your long weekend. And then Friday, we're going to Zoom on Friday at 11 o'clock. So just start thinking of it now. If you can't come, I guess you can't come, but I'm going to make it like semi-required, I think. And yeah, like honestly, like if you want to be JC or Brutus or Cassius, like you can let me know ahead of time, or you can just like plan on being that. And as long as like you're into it, I don't think other people would argue with you, and you could read their lines. It'll be fun. We'll keep it quick. It'll be faster this time because there's lines to trade off with, and it's not like you're just reading a whole page of an epic poem. Anyway, and then we'll have to move pretty quickly. So let's see. We'll do Act 4 the following Monday, Act 5 the following Wednesday, and then we'll have that last Friday just to review everything. That'll just be where I go over what the final is on, which it'll be like technically the last 6 books of Aeneid, but probably focused on the last 3 specifically, and then this play. So the notes you're getting like this week are pretty important. The final is going to be very reliant on these notes. All right, have a good long weekend. I will see you all on Wednesday. And yep. All right. Bye.